YouTube is now on, and we can now get to what you're able to get in
Yeah.
for the lives of today. Today, Nicholas, I would actually want to share a story on how we're able to an experience I had, and just to pick up from what we just got to discuss last week. It was a very good discussion on Samuel and understanding the hyperstate and the hypostate that can come about from trauma. And just I just want to share some of a personal story I was able to experience not so long ago, to just bring also some of these notions to play. So can I do that, Nicholas?
Yeah, sure. Let's take the pie chart again here,
Yeah,
and remind our audience what are the, sort of the most common words that surround the word trauma. This program
yeah,
is all about trauma, and we tell stories that are related to trauma, or might be related to trauma, and then we come back to these notions that we see here on this pie chart. So, would it be okay, Renee, if as we listen through your story, to just let the
absolutely.
audience perhaps guess what some of the categories in this pie chart might be related to
Mm,
your story?
absolutely. I think they actually help us to get into context and be able to understand the details and the insight that we can have from my sharing better. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, so absolutely. If you may just allow me to begin, Nicholas.
Mm.
So what happened was that I met this younger lady, maybe month and a half, 2 months ago, and I got to know her. She's a single mom, very interesting lady. And at the one time, we were getting to share a meal that I had prepared, and it was just on a table that, well, after we have served, as we're watching something, ideally, my plate maybe looked better than hers. So she was very curious in having a bite at my plate. And in at that moment, I just felt, yeah, I should invite her. She feel at home. My food is hers. I did it to share this meal. So I just mentioned, and it came from a point of affirmation, since I've always been affirmed most of my life. Came from a position of affirmation that, go ahead, I won't hit you. And that statement, to go ahead, I won't hit you, was taken very defensively, and she wondered, why would you even mention hitting in this context? Where does that come from? Yeah. And it took me aback that, okay, should I have just kept quiet? I thought my statement was supposed to welcome, but now it seems like it brought out something else that she had not even thought about in that moment of her reaching out and doing that activity. And my mind immediately went into try and do damage control. I'm like, okay, okay, let's um sit down, come closer, just try to invite and maybe give her a hug somehow, and just embrace that, okay, um I didn't mean it in that way. And when I was trying to invite her into, like, to just try and re restructure and come together again with the bonding, she said, don't do that. She was apprehensive, and she stood up and folded her arms. She's like, no, I won't sit. I would comply, because now what you're doing is that you're reminding me of a situation whereby my father came to my school to visit and called me out of class to tell me that him and my mother are getting a divorce, and he did it the exact same way. That, I know you're in class, please come out. And she was very young at the time. I think she could have been in her preteens, not even her teens. He just invited her out, come, have us just sit down. I need to tell you something. And it was the worst news of her life at the time. So that action of me inviting her, that, oh, come and sit down, let me explain. She was apprehensive about it, because she had, last time something like that happened, it was terrible news, and the damage control was not damage control at all. And experiencing that was very curious for me, because I wondered, so I didn't know this beforehand. Knowing this experience of her beforehand, and we ended up not talking for about 2 days after that, because as I was trying to explain myself before, as she was standing there apprehensive, and I was trying to invite her, and I said, okay, as you stand there, let me just explain what I meant. She said, don't try and dictate how I feel. This is how I feel. Embrace how I feel first, then explain what you were coming from. And when that disconnect even happened even more, she said, you know what? There's no discussion here. She left, and we didn't talk for 2.5 days. So I think there's a lot we can. What do you think about that story so far?
Hmm. What I'm sensing is that there is an implicit degree of force in the story that you're telling, right? Because if we think of the word hit and how that provoked her defensiveness, she went into defense mode when she heard the word hit, right? And it's connected to nurturing. You
Mhm.
were serving food on the table, there was inviting food in your plate. It's actually quite common for a woman to reach out into the plate of the boyfriend, the man, the husband, right? Like a child reaches out to the plate of
Mhm.
the parent, right? And particularly the mother often. It's almost a test that almost every woman, I think, runs uh, to check on the nurturing psychology of the man, right? Is this man going to be able to provide and nurture when I am vulnerable and nurturing a little baby, right? Um, but even, this is a very broad generalization, by the way. Um, but what is important to note is that this is a situation of nurturing where the word hit is mentioned. When we think of the word hit, even if we think of it, what are some of the things that we think of when we think of the word hit? Hit what? Like, for example, the image that comes to mind when I hear the word hit is hammer, hitting with
Mhm.
a hammer, a nail, for example, right? Hit a nail with a hammer. Another one is I hit my foot on the leg of the table and that hurts,
Yeah.
right? What's another one for you?
Maybe hit a key, hit a button.
Hit a button,
Um,
yeah. Hit the subscribe
yeah,
button,
hit a
sure.
button.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you know,
Hit a
yeah,
kid.
hit a
You
ball.
can hit
Yeah,
you can hit a kid, you can hit a person, you can hit a
yeah.
car, you
Mm.
can hit a wall with the car, right? So if we think in general terms about all these examples of hitting, what is common to all of them?
There's definitely force, and there's a striking.
Right. Okay. So it's
But,
force and
yeah,
striking. So it's like
yeah,
I often tell my clients. So I say the difference between violence and gentleness is not in the gesture itself, but is in the amount of energy that gets delivered in a certain amount of time. So, for example, if I come with my hand here and I go very softly and I do like this, that's kind of a caress, right? You would call that
yeah,
a caress. I'm caressing myself, right? Now I do the same,
mm,
but I just go more quickly. That becomes a slap. If I go even
yeah,
harder, that becomes a hit, right? Or that becomes painful. So the amount of
yeah,
energy that we input um, in a gesture in a short amount of time, that becomes force, and that can hurt, right? That leads to pain.
yeah,
So hitting is much more uh, connected to pain, to the idea of pain, than pushing, for example, or touching, right?
mm,
You touch, you push, you hit, right?
mm,
And in all of these situations we described, there is speed involved, there is striking involved, right? So immediately the word hit and pain and force can easily come to mind. So my question now is, in your world, Rene, what does the word hit relate to? Why is it okay to mention the word hit in a context of nurturing?
I think hit for me, I think at that time meant disciplinary, like a slap on the wrist. You know, when you're reaching out and someone
Ah,
hits your wrist, you
right.
know, that no, don't take that. Or you know, when someone is cooking or there's some nice food in the kitchen and you push away, the kid is pushed away, it's not ready yet, the cookies are not ready yet, don't take him, it's for later, it's for evening, it's for supper. That's what I
Yeah,
meant by hit, is that this is not the time, put your hands away. There's a time and place for this.
right.
So
So
mine came from, yeah,
that's
from a
nice.
this, I think from a, yeah.
That's a nice clarification. So you are coming from hitting as a form of discipline, and discipline as a value to grow character and morality, right?
Mm, absolutely.
Right. So in your, I'm guessing that your experience of family, both of them were involved. You're, I know, if there is one thing I can say about you, is that you're very morally inclined, you're very compassionate, very gentle. You've grown into what I would say a good man, a good boy. So, but now I'm understanding that the good that I see in you has come about with some hitting and some discipline that involved hitting. Is that correct?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it did. Yes, it actually did.
And now you're, uh-huh. Before we could probably open a whole session to talk about those experiences, and we will. But let's just stick around with how this woman might have been triggered by the word hitting. So in your
Mm,
family context, and I know there is a lot of love in your family context, so there is love, there is hitting, there is discipline, there is good moral character, and they all form a cloud of meaning, a cloud of experiences. Right? In this sense, that cloud of experiences is a nurturing cloud of experiences, isn't it? You get moral
absolutely,
character,
yes.
you get good relationships, sort of clean, good relationship between the members of the family. Um, you know what is right and what is wrong, so it's easy to to navigate the environment, right? Um, there's still nurturing involved, so the whole thing is an experience of nurturing. So for you,
Mm,
hitting some level of hitting or discipline and nurturing is all connected. Now I'm wondering
yeah, it
what's
is.
her experience of hitting, because we
Mm,
can increase the power and the force in that hitting, and suddenly this whole cloud of experience of nurturing collapses and turns into a cloud of a monster cloud of traumatic experiences, just out of
mm,
increasing just a little bit more the force in that striking, right, in that gesture. And when you mention the word hitting, this person reacting defensively like that, it hints to something, right? She did not understand,
absolutely.
hey, because you were going a step further. You were saying, I've been hit to be disciplined, even in the kitchen, even in the situation of food, but I will not hit you. I will not discipline you. I will
Mm,
let you access
mm,
this beautiful food, right? So in a way, you were actually going in the direction of gentleness. From your world, you
yeah,
were walking even more towards gentleness, right? Why do you, what are the say or that you know about this person that might legitimate her taking the word hitting as completely different from what you meant?
absolutely. I think one of the situations is that she did mention that her father was quite abusive, physically violent towards her mother. So her experience of
Okay.
hitting from a young age has been something that has been very intense and very violent. So that has been something she has witnessed. So I think the fact that she has seen that kind of hitting, in fact, so much so that I once allowed her to go through my phone to be able to calm some anxieties in an attempt for her to calm some anxieties that she had. She said, "No, I can't get you to go through your phone because when my mother went through my father's phone, she got hit for it. She got beat up, abused for it. So that's an action that she didn't want to take, even though I invited her to. So the fact that she had witnessed that kind of violence going up definitely could have formed her own version, her own definition of what the word hitting means. So that really breaks my own, I would say, experience bubble of what it meant from a disciplinary
Yeah,
point of view.
yeah. Had you mentioned in a conversation we are having before coming on live here, had you mentioned that there had been a situation where she was suspicious of you talking to somebody or something like that? Was that the situation where you were going to
Yeah,
show her the
absolutely.
phone?
Yes, that was the situation. That was the context of me showing her the phone. The one, the anxiety that she felt that my attention was no longer dedicated to her, that it was divided. So she was assuming, she was wondering, who is that getting your attention other than me? I should, your full attention so that we can share this moment. So I wanted to show her that there's no one else I'm talking to. And that's when it came about that the fact that you were able to make me feel this way, the truth of it doesn't matter because I don't want to look for it. Because last time I saw someone look for that truth, it did not end well in any way.
Do you see how, at least from my point of view, there is a possibility that here too, a situation of nurturing, whereby you are nurturing your connection with her, but you just have a slight shift in where your attention is being placed, and there is no one else involved, but she's interpreting that as a distancing of your nurturing towards her. It kind of hints to an anxious attachment style, which we will cover in following
Mm,
sessions of this live eventually. Um, but there is nurturing involved here. You have a slight shift of attention. She interprets that as a threat to the nurturing that you give her. And then when you try to repair, which is also classical of anxious attached children or adults, when you try to repair, she she cannot repair. She cannot repair with you. She cannot come down. But here too, what's particular of this person is that immediately she associates the opportunity to nurture or repair their nurturing with an experience of violence. Do you see the parallel between
mm,
her reaching out for the food and getting some more, and her reaching out for the phone and getting nurtured by confirming that there is nobody there that you're being distracted with? Both these actions would lead to saying, well, no, actually, I am loved and I am lovable. Rene loves me, right? Rene
mm,
is putting all his attention on me. Rene is ready to feed me. But these two situations lead to something different, and they lead to an association with hitting and violence. And so we come back to some of the things that we've been
mm,
talking about in these lives is when early on in childhood, uh, there is cohesion in the family. So whatever you experience in the family, you call that love, because love initially, all that it is survival. It's getting food, it's getting dressed, and it's getting a roof. And as long as you're getting those basic physiological needs met, you have received love. If that love came with a
yeah,
very unhealthy amount of hitting and violence, it doesn't matter. You're still getting fed, you're still getting a roof, you're still sleeping, you're still meeting some basic physiological relational needs, right? But of course, as an adult, then you live what we call aspects of developmental trauma, right? When you try to establish a new relationship of intimacy, And suddenly these elements of your childhood, which should not be there anymore in the adult relationship, because maybe this adult relationship has the potential to be something very, very different from your childhood experience with your parents, comes into the relationship and disturbs the present relationship, right? Can you see how deep these things are? Like you only had to give what, 3 minutes of the story and one word,
Absolutely.
and we can find so
Yeah.
much meaning in it, you know? And it's not because we are just inventing stories. Of course, these would have to be verified, you know, with her and with you and so on. But it's because that's how experience gets translated into our brains. It gets translated into words, and those words get associated with different emotions and other words. So we have seen in your case, I know we have gone a bit over time with finishing.
Mm.
Um, in your case, you know, as we said, the hitting is discipline. Discipline is a sense of safety because you know what is right and what
Yes.
is wrong. So you know as a child exactly how to be safe, how to receive the love of your parents, and how to not create anger and disruption in the family, right? So you have hitting, you have discipline, you have safety, you have nurturing, and then you have security and attachment, secure attachment, and then back to hitting, you know, disciplining, and so on. So that whole circle is something that grows a Rene that feels safe in the world and especially in the family.
Mm.
And this circle can go very, very differently if only we increase a little bit, you know, tune up, turn up a little bit the volume of that force of hitting,
Mm.
of striking. There's a lot of space for furthering insight into this conversation.
Mm.
Unfortunately, we have come to the end this week as well. These 20 minutes pass very quickly, Rene, but it's always a pleasure
Yeah.
being with you. Um, our viewers, whether now or later, they can contribute. I want to remind everybody they can contribute to support this live by scanning the QR code that is just up here. Buy us a coffee.
Yeah.
You could just buy us a coffee if you like what we're doing. And also, it's a way for you to say, yes, please do more of this. And Rene, have you got something to close this live?
Yeah, I think I will say that thank you so much for helping to me to understand that, yes, heightening the intensity of the first stage of what I've been able to understand as my upbringing can really change completely the perspective and how I relate with her. And also, I'll be curious that with the further episodes that we're going to be getting in, possibly to understand what attached me to her in the first place, and I would like to really get to touch on that. Was it something I saw in her, in that inner child, that maybe that anxious attachment style that you mentioned, of trying to repair the fact that she's a single mom, trying to repair the fact that, and I'm very curious to getting to discussing that. So thank you also for bringing that up, and I'm looking forward to getting to cover that in the next episode.
Yeah. I also want to remind our clients that we have been covering the questions of the ACE test, and that they can all take the ACE test by scanning this other QR code here. So go and take this. It's free. There is no commercial interest here involved. You should be seeing the QR code up, yeah, on your left-hand side, left upper corner there. So if you're able
It
to
is
pause
it
this video
exactly.
and scan that QR code, it will take you to the website. And also that this story involved a divorce, Rene, like this story that you told, right? And
Yeah.
divorce is the first question that we get into this ACE test. So she would be
Yeah.
taking a yes, you know, in this test already. So we will see some of the implications of that one yes. I think I did mention last week, right, that you have 40% more probability of being depressed or anxious when you have gone through a divorce, right? Than most other people. Okay, so we're really over time, everyone. Thank you for listening to another
Mm.
live. Rene, thank you. I'll see you next week on the Saturday if everything goes well.
Okay. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.